I just walk around and just. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for that, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, all of you great speakers, all of you liking swearing as well, but that's okay. I enjoy swearing. So, I'm just wondering in terms of partnership. Deborah alluded to it. You can compromise too much. Have you all ever felt that you compromised in order to get a good thing done? Who wants to start? Deborah, go on.
I'm going to admit a terribly shameful thing that I've done, and it was very difficult for me. I was offered money, and it was actually, I was evil of them. They would not give it to my organization. They said, we want to give it to you personally, the Asian Development Bank. And I did not want to take it. And someone convinced me, it was to do a study on pedestrians, and they said, if you don't take that money, someone who doesn't care about pedestrians will take it and do a terrible job. And I said, I'm going to read the contract and see if it says anywhere in there that I'm not allowed to say nasty things about ADB, then I won't take it. And then I went to the ADB Transport Forum and called it the devil. So that made me feel better.
So you took the money?
I did take the money. We did the study. It's on their website. It was actually very helpful for us. And I continue to have a friendly, conflictual relationship with them. Some people have heard the story. We recently filed a grievance against the World Bank and won a nice success that way. I'm not saying confrontation is the only way to succeed, but I think it's an important tool in our toolkit. Usually what I suggest is that you have an organization with people like me who you can use to attack the organizations or governments, usually governments, that need to be attacked, and you can be the good guy. But it just suits my personality too much to resist being the person that creates the conflict, so I occasionally take my role.
Thank you. Preston, have you ever done a bad thing or compromise to get a good thing done?
This might sound a bit weak, but I don't think so, not in this work. But I'm worried that we've gone too far the other way, that we won't compromise. So we've lost opportunities by not compromising. And I think I alluded to it before, that particularly I think when it comes to cycling, and in Australia, cycling organisations want to work with us, but the compromise would have compromised the most vulnerable. The partnership would be always walking loses something, footpaths or cycles on crossing. And I wonder whether we should soften. I don't think so, but I do sometimes. But I do wonder whether we should. And I don't think so. That's sort of more of a question.
Yeah, and what I know we had a private discussion over the phone before the conference. You talked about how when you initially partnered with a cycling organisation in Australia, they wanted to see more cyclists on footpaths and kick the pedestrians off the pavement. So, what happened with that?
Well, we haven't partnered with it. When we first came in, we did have the big cycling organisation, Carbon, wanted to work together, and we realised every meeting started about, we can do this and this and this, and ended up with, well, we're going to take this and this and this. And in Australia, we've got 7 states, territories, and in the last year, a couple of them have fallen. So, where there's no walking advocacy effectively, they've got cycling on footpaths and other things going. So it's been losing across the country. The only areas where it hasn't is really where there's walking advocacy. So it's, and we know from seniors it's massive. We know from vision impaired, the most vulnerable road users, vulnerable pedestrians, it's a massive issue. And it's hard because for cycling it's a really small issue. And in countries where we should be working together and working on the big picture, long-term goals, it actually stops partnerships because for walking it's massive, cycling it's small. And I just don't get why some of them insist in it, because they look to Europe, the best practice, and most of those countries don't have that cycle.
I just want to go to your two. This is the one who shouted that absolutely not. Oh, so you're hard and fast on that rule, woman. Okay.
It's absolutely obvious. We should be taking, the cyclists should be taking some of the space taken by the cars. And when people say, oh, there's no space for cycling, I want to say, take out your measuring tape. Look at a cycle versus a car. And we see this all the time, and we nod and we accept often. We say, oh yeah, there's no space for cycling, which is completely nonsensical.
Depends on where you are.
Well, but if there are still streets for cars, I would say, of course, there's space for cycling. Get rid of the cars, and you'll have lots of space for cycling and still have space for pedestrians. So the compromise isn't, I mean, it's a false comparison of walking versus cycling. We should be uniting against the cars, and then we can solve the problem. I know, I'm radical, but that's a radical problem requires radical solutions.
I'm wondering, how many partnerships, for all of you, how many partnerships does it take before you make a measure of success?
Well, I was starting to tell you a little bit about what's happening between the walking and biking movement in the US, and then we'll see how many partnerships it takes. Right now we have 600 partners, and we think we're still not strong enough. So we have a long ways to go. Right now, the allocation of funding towards walking and biking infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure, active transportation infrastructure, is inadequate to actually tackle the auto industry. So we have probably compromised walk-bike issues that you were speaking about, I think quite articulately, in order to build an overall coalition that is strong enough to bring federal money down. So I don't know if that goes at your first question of, what have we done? But there's been a strategic sort of decision that we need to build the walk-bike lobby with a broad enough, big enough tent in order to be able to shift federal transportation dollars so that we're actually building pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure at all. And that would be a step towards then being able to go up to this. But we were just, it's all semantic.
Just also to add to that, probably for us, it's also it's framing it in a different way. The question, sometimes it's not the number. The essence of these partnerships. Definitely, the more partners you have, these partnerships, that brings a lot of depth to the core of this entity. But it's really looking at the specific qualities and strengths of these partners and maximizing these. For example, the work that we do, not in terms of walkability, for example, in the clean fuels and vehicles when we lobby in the developing countries, trying to put your energy resources in putting together this specific core set of partners that you have to work with. So sometimes it's just building that strategic base.
And I'm just wondering, have you said you found success in the organisation that you've done throughout your partners now? How have you found success with the partnerships that you've done now? Do you feel, and how much has it taken?
For example, I think the transport-related programs that we do, we can say that we have had successes. For example, this clean fuels and vehicles in terms of putting forth more advanced vehicle emission standards and fuel quality standards in several countries, contributing to that process. It's really engaging these discussions and trying to balance out, these the pressures, the needs, and also the priorities in this country. So similarly, I think that would, that would be the basic core in terms of looking at this walkability issue. But in the region, but also there's also a different layer looking at these different sets of organizations. You mentioned, for example, these including these biking organizations, but also, for example, it's also the school complexity in terms of the public transport system. So now this is also the challenge for many of these developing Asian cities and countries.
And after 600 odd partnerships, you still don't feel you're not satisfied?
Well, We think in order to be able to have this strong, what we've been calling a co-benefit partnership, we need to have people from essentially every sector advocating for walking for their own reasons. So we want to be able to have the Social Justice and Equity Committee, the NAACP, organizations like Girl Track, speaking about this for more vulnerable communities of color where walking and biking infrastructure is inadequate, active transportation is inadequate, it's unsafe, to be able to articulate for their own way. And the school groups for academic performance, and the environmental groups for reducing carbon footprint, and the health groups, so that we have enough of a co-benefit constituency that cuts across our political line. Pardon me?
With a louder voice.
With a loud enough voice that cuts across the political voice that is often, it's not obvious to anybody, the political challenges in the US right now, that if we don't have a constituency that cuts across those co-benefit, we get stuck in moving any policy initiative forward in a left-right Republican-Democrat.
Do you find the model you outlined, is that a problem in the United States, or is this something that can be replicated across different countries overall? That's something that our audience could think about more and perhaps try and work on better from especially.
I think there's part of it that I know is transferable, but I think you have to leave it to everybody to unpack it yourself and see what you think. I do believe that there's value. We're actually using a lot of words here similarly. Cooperation, partnership, collaboration. We may want to unpack those a little bit. What's a campaign? What's a movement? We're trying to build a social movement that has distributed leadership, so that rather than a centralized campaign where we're driving something from one place with one message, we're actually creating a movement where there's leadership in different places. That's what we think is really important, to have a strong base. And in order to do that, we have to have people with their own voice driving that kind of constituency. I think it's a very different thing if you're looking at a local partnership trying to move a particular piece of funding forward. But for us to build a social movement, we know that we need to have people in it for their own reason. That if we try and pull people together around health, they'll come for a while, but then they'll go back to the issue of the environment. They'll go back to social justice. So we're trying to build something that has people in it for their own reasons. And you have to decide how you would use that, but we find that to be a much more stable, stronger structure over time.
And I'm just wondering, what kind of partners do you say organizations look for? Are you open to all kinds of partners in order to fit around the agenda, or do you, even if they're open, feel you work with the car industry to meet your needs and aims?
I think it's clear the only relationship I want to have with the car industry. And it's a real issue, so it's a lot easier, of course, to be conservative or a bit fearful and less ambitious and say, well, people love their cars, and cars are a big part of the transport system, and, someone says car-free cities, and, oh, what are you talking about? That's never going to happen. It's very easy to back off. But one of my goals is to get young people on board, and I actually hired a young woman, and we had a conversation. I said, I'm not sure we should use the phrase car-free cities, because I think it's a turnoff. And she actually got mad at me. And she said, what are you talking about? That's the only thing that's worth working for. So here we are in Dhaka, which something like 6% of the trips are by car. You wouldn't think so. You look at the roads, they're completely clogged with cars. And this year, I was very pleased to see, after the World Car Free Day celebrations, I was with people I'm not normally with, including the director of Coca-Cola. There's all these corporate people, and I just casually, showed them a picture of myself in the newspaper and said, oh, Car Free Day. And I expected them to sort of laugh at me and, yeah, car free, that's cute. And the first response was, need of the hour. And then there was this whole series of responses like that of, well, this is useless. We have a car and we sit stuck in traffic for 3 hours to travel 10 kilometers. And I realized, as I listened to these people, corporate types who travel 1 kilometer by car, they're not happy. And there might actually be this huge groundswell of sentiment that we could tap into if we were brave enough. And building our lobby, one of the groups I want to reach out to is mothers who spend so much time chauffeuring children and others, and how much time you could gain, and I look across those issues I put up, and there's a bunch more, but all of these groups that have so much to benefit from, and I think sometimes when we're a bit conservative, yeah, it's easier to get the big groups on board, but then we don't get the vibrant young people who might actually be the key force. But if we can get millions and millions of people under this banner, which I see as a distinct possibility, and they're not going to get excited about, oh, let's walk more. But wow, car-free cities, and I show it to them, I explain what it would be like, and I see people's eyes light up, and they would love that, and they would work passionately for it.
I think with partnerships, we've had core funding from health, and that's going to finish, and health promotion is really the domain of government funding. So we're trying to diversify our funding sources and doing consulting and this and that. So the question here, we're after funding. But interestingly, the only corporation that's ever come to us out of the blue to offer us money was a corporation that builds toll roads. As a rank up percent, I think it was $30,000 or $50,000, and you got this like thinking, because there's a sustainability arm to their, but their business is about getting people cars on roads. So no, we wouldn't do it. So the three-headed monster, well, we won't get money from cigarettes and alcohol, tobacco, cars, or anything that will bring our health promotion activities into review. But it gets really murky because, would we accept money from petroleum? I'd say no, we have boardwalk to stop because energy companies have a wide variety, so it gets really murky about who you will and won't, but generally the three-headed monster you think not. But it's really murky and really quite difficult.
There we go, and then I'll go back.
Just a very quick point on that. The reason that tobacco companies gave a lot of money away, so they call it CSR, it was buying the opposition. So they would give money, and we know Playboy Foundation gives money to rape crisis centers, so they won't say anything against Playboy or pornography. The tobacco companies were giving money to all sorts of different health groups and scholarships for kids, and so these groups won't say anything against the industry. So I think we do have to be very, very careful who we accept money from. I know it's hard, but that.
It's hard to know where the money comes from entirely because there's all these tentacles into that.
All money's dirty.
So it sounds like you do a lot of your due diligence. So I suppose what's so wrong with it? I know that the toll road company.
The sole purpose is to get people in cars.
I suppose
our sole purpose is to get people physically active and walking. Very compatible.
No worries. Do you feel that there are other left field partners that you feel you can partner up with any of you in order to get a good thing done? Do you think you can reach out to left field partners, not so much your enemy, but are there other left field partners, not the mainstream or traditional partners you feel you can bring an alliance with in order to get a good thing done?
It's kind of related. One little point, because I spoke about the walking cycling, I want to put it to bed because I'm annoyed as an organisation we spend so much damn time on cycling issues where we should be working on the three-headed monster. I think with walking, it's not the partnership with cycling, it's the partnership with public transport. That's the natural connection to walking. And I think that's not a left field, but I think us in the walking space, we have to get more connected to particularly the providers of public transport. Maybe some of build buses, maybe, rather than cars, but I think that's an area that as walking advocates we have to look at more closely and get away from just being caught up in cycling issues and finding out the parts.
Obviously, when you go to rob the bank, you want the one that's got the most money. So if you look, what are the issues getting the attention and getting a lot of funding? And we've got climate change and non-communicable disease attention, not yet money. Bloomberg's put a lot of money into road safety. As far as I know, it's mostly for seatbelts and motorcycle helmets. Why are we keeping quiet about these things? In terms of Bloomberg, I think giving money rather badly in terms of road safety. But climate change, it's getting taken over by the electric car or the cleaner fuel discussion. I'm sorry, I think the cleaner fuel discussion is complete eyewash.
So you wouldn't work with someone like Tesla?
Definitely not. I don't care. The cleaner car, you still have to manufacture, you still have to dispose of it. It still kills people when it moves on the street. It's still taking space away. It's still too expensive. You still have too much government expenditure on vehicles, and you're still asking individuals to then second it with their own expenditures. This is not the solution. And when people talk about private vehicles, I say, yes, absolutely, bicycles. When we have our beautiful streets where we can have separate carriageways for the cycle rickshaw and movement of goods, people with disabilities, you're being cycle rickshaws, and we can have the nice broad road for the bicycles and plenty of pedestrian infrastructure, we can build it without the conflicts, and of course with public transit, the conflicts are because the cars are there.
Only with regards to this issue, looking at the these different aspects. For us, our organization, we try to strike a balance between these different how do you say this, mitigation measures in looking at the pollution from the transportation sector. So for in the global sustainable transport community, this is embodied by this avoid, shift, improve strategy. So avoiding the need for travel, either motorized or the travel itself, shifting movement towards more environmentally friendly modes. So looking at your public transport modes, for example. And the third one is really on the improve side, which really looking into improving the current state of the motorized travel. So we are currently in a state that the cars are here. Neglecting also this issue, for example, in looking at the cleaner fuels and vehicles, even the public transport, which is public transport, most of your buses, for example, in Hong Kong. We had a discussion earlier looking into the air quality issues, pedestrian exposure. These diesel-run buses are associated with a lot of the black carbon and the NOx emissions on the roadside, and you need to do this complementary mitigation measures. But we do acknowledge also definitely we are also in this boat that ultimately the solutions, the bigger impacts, changing trajectories into the future and developing, particularly for Asian cities, it's really looking at the void policies, looking at densification, looking at more walkable, livable communities. For example, we are also in that single as there.
There you go. Go on.
I understand, as far as I understand, a lot of cities, including a lot of the US, we get cleaner fuels and people drive more and the benefit is gone. Dhaka, we got rid of our 2-stroke 3-wheelers, which was great, and the air got cleaner, and now it's dirtier again because we have more cars. So I think it's a distraction. I think we're putting too much energy into solutions that are not the true solutions. I know the stuff I'm recommending is very difficult, but when you look at the incredible number of problems you could solve, I would say at least 20 major issues that are deeply important to a lot of people, we can have an enormous public swell of opinion if we could figure out at the same time how to counter the three-headed monster, which is simply diverting people, convincing people, keeping them addicted to the problems when they could be working with some solutions. But unless we really focus on doing that, we're going to keep distracting ourselves with temporary solutions, not getting far enough, and I mean with climate change, really, I think we're quite simply running out of time.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, because I know we talked a lot about money, and you referenced another similar organisation in Australia who doesn't have the funding at the moment. Is it possible, how far can you achieve success in partnership without funding? And I suppose what lessons would you give to your similar organisations in Australia who don't have the funding yet?
It's really difficult. I don't envy the position they're in. I think to set up an organisation like ours, I don't think you can do it without funding it. But you definitely can do community-led campaigns if you have champions in a community. I think with social media does offer opportunities, but I don't think for an organisation they can do it. But I do think it's a bit like the old community development model, that there can be some really significant, strong grassroots action driven from the community. In Australia, we haven't seen that, because that's really taking it on a three-headed monster and how we design our whole cities and suburbs and wanting to change those little bits of it. But to do it on a grand scale, I think it'd be really difficult. But I certainly, the other states and all the other states that have little organisations try and get funding, I really don't envy them, because committed individuals doing great work, but they just don't have the time to be able to do it, and to get that legitimacy to do partnerships.
I'm just wondering to our audience, do you have a question? Would you like to raise your hand perhaps to any of our panelists? We have a couple of people. Let's go first to the lady first, then come to you, sir. And just state who your question is for.
My name's Robin Davis, I'm from the Queensland Walk. So my question is actually for the whole of the panel, but it's inspired, I suppose, by, I'm so impressed with the Everybody Walks coalition, and it's so exciting to see that. That's what I want. My question to the whole panel is, what would be the pros and cons of establishing that kind of organisation or that kind of coalition at the international level? And is it feasible? So pros and cons, is it feasible?
Who would like to answer that first? Go on, Alan.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pros when it comes to that. All these definitely like sharing of experiences, challenges, sharing of solutions. This is basically the intention of at the international level we get this. On the other hand, on the con side, sometimes these multi-layered international partnerships. It also probably it depends on the activities, but there's also some propensity to sometimes get distracted in that sense. So this issue, for example, it's very much local. So a lot of the energy energy and time have to be spent in terms of doing this coordination at the local level. It might just have a certain distraction in terms of moving forward with this. But in a way, it helps. Like if you're focusing on knowledge sharing activities, for example, and holding these conversations, and then just finding out what other people are doing. It also helps a lot.
I could imagine some benefits, but I want to be clear about why we invested in the collaborative in the US, and it was really to do four things. One was to have a common message that people could align around, and that could be useful globally. And we all frame in a different way. We have different cultural contexts, so it was very helpful for us to have common language. Second was trying to shift federal policy and also state policy. And so it was very helpful in our political context to be able to have a way of organizing and thinking across groups so that we could build the political will and the community will to get behind particular policy solutions. We were also trying to shift investments, local investments, the funding conversation, which we can come back to make sure there was enough resources to fund the local walking groups. Small amounts of money go tremendously long ways, as you know. And we also wanted to have some larger groups, such as our Rails to Trails or Smart Growth America, and some of the larger groups that we're trying to fund, and a research agenda, so that we built the evidence base. Now, there may be an increased possibility for international group doing combined research in that way. But we felt like we needed those four things were sort of the planks, and that the collaborative is sort of designed to bring critical mass to that. So just add that to the mix.
The possibility of global clearinghouse as well as connection would be fantastic. I think that HealthBridge works with small NGOs in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and we try to provide a lot of the technical assistance, but it gets a bit tiring, and there's so many issues and so much information out there, and to know, taking a few notes in sessions, but thinking, oh my gosh, it would be great to have the one-stop shop for your information about promoting walkability and where you can find the Lancet studies on climate change and health, and there's so many things that would be really, the international treaties, a bit of breakdown on the walking, and just some really great advocacy campaigns, and then find out who those groups are, find the groups where you live. I think actually the clearinghouse aspect of it could be incredibly helpful, and then the people tapping into that, connecting those individuals. I see a great possibility. I think the really important point about where we need to break down some of these words, that it's easy to get people to be part of a network where you're just sharing some ideas. Working together is really tough. And then you get into stubborn people like me who say, I won't be on board, and that group's on board, I won't do it here, you know, in the walking versus cycling. But if you just have a clearinghouse and some communication, people can still fight each other. But they can go to that group and use that group for various things.
Still working better with coffee as well.
Yes, throwing hot coffee at each other, that's a great idea.
And part of my question would be is that we have an extraordinary forum in Walk21, and what Walk21 is becoming, a place to learn, meet, trade notes, get smarter together, and we go back and implement this. And so I really asked the question, not to change the focus here, but what can we do to all be supporting Walk21 more to continue to build this out? Because in a way, no, she actually, I wouldn't take the money.
Thank you very much. And to the gentleman,
Thank you very much. I wish you appreciate the speakers. I've enjoyed much of your presentation from Australia, from the US, from the Philippines. All the statistics you brought, which were beautifully presented to us. And unfortunately, I never heard anything about Africa. But whatever the case, my question is, development in a way reduces workability. First, and I'll take my own example. As a kid or as a lad, when I was going to school, I walked to school. Now roads are built, kids are taken by bus to school. In my work in Africa, in the suburbs, in the interior areas, sometimes I go on treks for sometimes 6, sometimes 8 hours to get to the people. These same people, if they have to come back to the town areas, they have to work for those number of hours. But when they get to town, they use maybe motorbikes, or they use buses, and so on. Where is exactly the point where the balance, where is it development which takes out workability completely, or under development which uses or helps the people to work? Where do we set a balance, if I may ask, to help us improve with our whole talk so far? Thank you.
thank you so much.
I actually wrote a book about that. Beyond Apologies, Defining and Achieving Economics of Well-Being. And how can we call development what you're describing? Well, development, when you're saying that development means we can no longer walk to school, kids can no longer play outside, we're dying from breathing the air, the most dangerous activity is crossing the street, and we call that development. And that's insane. And to me, it's related to measuring gross domestic product instead of measuring gross national happiness or gross national well-being. If governments were measuring the prosperity of citizens and the environment in terms of health and natural resource, maintenance of natural resource and the environment, then development would not mean more pollution, more traffic deaths. So it's a very big issue, but I think it's just a complete mislabeling of development. And again, yeah, the three-headed monster has decided that's development, and we need to fight back that, of course, I think it's Enrique Peñalosa, the definition of a civilized city, one in which a child can ride anywhere safely by bicycle, or walking, an elderly person can walk anywhere without being hit by a bicycle, as opposed to we've got more cars on the roads.
I'm not sure I can. I think the three-headed monster is, whatever it is, whether it's agriculture, whether it's road building, whatever it is, when it's doing development, I think, it's causing problems in lots of places. And I think, so speaking yesterday, and apologies, I've forgotten the name, sort of made a point that in Africa, more people die from road trauma annually than they do from HIV, TB, and wars. And then in Kenya, there's 700 people die a year on the roads and 500 of them pedestrians. They're massive challenges, and it's and I think about my presentation, thinking about in Victoria and Australia and their massive challenges in Victoria and Australia, but they really fade into insignificance when we're responding to the type of issues you're talking about. So it's a bit hard to comment because I don't know. All I do know is just wrong. But I don't know what the solution is. And I just wonder how much of this development is coming from Western countries.
I just want to bring this gentleman in.
This gentleman is Peter Newman. I've done similar political work, mostly with public transport, electric rail in particular, for about 35 years, in probably 100 cities now, because I write books about it for activist groups, and we've won a lot of them. But I would have to say most of them, where it's really hard and where we've lost, it's been the bus lobby funded by BRT groups, and in particular the Shell oil companies now revealed behind that, including Penalosa's work. Penalosa's a friend of mine, but Bogotá and Curitiba were actual fronts for Shell to demonstrate that electric rail wasn't needed. And it was a constant process of having to work out who are your friends in this business. And the reality is the BRT movement is funded by the three-headed monster. And it is very difficult to deal with. Personally, the approach I would take to car-free cities in general is that you don't get money from governments either. The World Bank pushed this whole thing, stopped electric rail in hundreds of cities because they said buses are better. And they were actually part of the problem. So NGOs, civil society, have to be the source of the ideas if you're going to win them and get governments to do the right thing. And that means groups of people working with the media and with universities, getting the evidence base, getting it out there and winning it publicly. I think setting yourself up as an organisation, I know Victoria Walk sounds great and this great partnership and everything, but you can do so much more without any money. Just get people going.
Especially when you have some big role models out there.
There's plenty of good case studies, there's no question about that. That's what we write about in the books, but they're nearly all about these organisations that did it all with no resources.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Newman. Robin?
I feel I should say a small thing. Robin Thornton, Walk21, if anyone doesn't know that yet. I wanted to pick up on Tyler's suggestion and on discussions we've been having in this conference and Walk21 has been having with various people and partners over the last months, because we are reshaping, and Jim alluded to it in his opening remarks, about how we're reshaping Walk21 to provide more of this resource for the international community, focusing on increasing walking and walkability. So my only comment, particularly in that regard right now, is that if you are interested in being engaged with us through the global network, then please come and talk to me directly, because there isn't time to expand on it. But please come and talk to me directly. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to remind people that if you're a pedestrian organisation but advocating for this type of work, then the IFB, the International Federation, we've heard it mentioned already, they're meeting immediately after this at 5:45. And if you want to go and find where that is, then when you get to the bottom of the escalators and start to walk out of the building, like we did yesterday to lead off on our walk, then you go swinging round to the left and into the Renaissance Hotel. So take the left turn into the Renaissance Hotel, and the meeting will be there in the business centre. So that's for pedestrian organisations, the International Federation, they're meeting this afternoon. But if you have other contributions or would like to connect with this clearinghouse knowledge base idea that we are building with Walk21, then please come and talk to me as well.
Thank you.
Right on time, because we are now just out of time. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, and can you give a big round of applause to my panel. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. That's the end of today for now, and I'll let all of you, if you want to go to the pedestrian atrium, please do. I'd just like to remind everyone that please do sign up for the workshops on Friday. The deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m. If you sign up for more than one workshop, so please do that, and I know many of our panelists have been promoting that. For now, we'll see you all tomorrow, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.